Imagine being arrested for serving your family a meal that your ancestors enjoyed for generations. This shocking reality defined the early 20th century, when everyday ingredients transformed into prohibited substances overnight. Let's explore 20 foods that were once kitchen staples but are now outlawed. Radioactive beverages and edibles. During the opening decades of the last century, a revolutionary element captivated consumers worldwide. Radium promised eternal youth, boundless energy, and radiant health. Its luminescent properties mesmerized the public, who interpreted the glow as evidence of its miraculous powers. Merchants sold radium-laced products everywhere, from general stores to pharmacies. The most notorious was Radithor, marketed with the sensational slogan promising to resurrect the dying. Consumers added radium to their drinking water, spread it on toast with butter, brushed their teeth with radium toothpaste, and even savored radium chocolate. This wasn't a passing fad but a thriving commercial empire founded on dangerous misconceptions. The aftermath proved catastrophic. Extended radium exposure triggered devastating radiation poisoning, severe blood disorders, and gruesome bone deterioration, particularly in the jaw. The most infamous victim was Eben Byers, a prominent industrialist who consumed more than 1,000 bottles of Radithor before succumbing to its effects. His tragic death finally prompted authorities to classify radium as an absolutely forbidden additive in consumables. Nicotine-flavored confections. Before public health campaigns and warning labels dominated tobacco advertising, manufacturers employed a disturbing strategy: target the youngest consumers. Throughout the 20s, tobacco-flavored sweets reached children's hands across the nation. These weren't merely cigarette-shaped candies. Early versions actually incorporated tobacco extracts or nicotine-flavoring compounds. Manufacturers combined sugar, corn syrup, and flavoring agents to create chalky confections, coloring one end crimson to simulate a lit cigarette. Packaged to replicate authentic tobacco products, these treats delighted youngsters who imitated their elders, exhaling clouds of white powder that resembled smoke. Many people from older generations still recall those powdered sticks that released puffs when blown upon. Public opposition didn't emerge until the 50s, when research conclusively linked smoking to cancer. Armed with irrefutable scientific proof of tobacco's devastating health consequences, authorities finally prohibited these candies, protecting children's well-being. The thought of normalizing smoking among youth seems unthinkable today. Rodent protein. In contemporary times, even a single rodent sighting in an upscale residence can trigger demands for emotional compensation. Yet during desperate periods, people converted these creatures into emergency protein sources. Though never a preferred option, extreme scarcity forced individuals to trap and prepare animals typically viewed with revulsion. Rodent meat consumption originated from dire necessity rather than culinary curiosity or taste preference. Some culinary professionals attempted to convince reluctant diners that the flavor resembled rabbit meat, hoping to overcome their hesitation. Proper preparation could indeed eliminate much of the unpleasant odor, making it viable sustenance during the Great Depression's darkest days. Health considerations quickly emerged as the primary justification for prohibition. Urban rodents carry numerous deadly pathogens, including plague and leptospirosis. These dangers compelled health officials to declare rodent flesh illegal and hazardous for human consumption, permanently eliminating any possibility of its culinary revival. Contemporary regulations strictly forbid consuming rodents, categorizing them as dangerous disease vectors. Have you encountered this practice or heard stories about it? Share your experiences below. Unpasteurized dairy. If rodent meat seems foreign, consider that even wholesome milk faced prohibition. During the 20s, unprocessed dairy was commonplace. particularly in agricultural communities. It was readily accessible, economical, and frequently the sole option for countless American families. Refrigeration technology hadn't reached most households, making milk preservation challenging. People typically milked cows directly, poured the fresh liquid into containers, and consumed it immediately. Theoretically, raw dairy offered superior nutrition, but practically, it posed serious bacterial risks. Unprocessed milk directly transmitted dangerous illnesses including tuberculosis, brucellosis, and typhoid fever. The critical turning point arrived with rapid urbanization, which necessitated mass milk distribution networks, simultaneously escalating contamination dangers. Pasteurization emerged not as a flavor enhancement but as a survival imperative. Some observers noted that only the foolish would consume raw milk unless they personally knew the farmer and verified their sanitation practices. Following pasteurization legislation, some producers actually reduced hygiene standards, relying on heat sterilization to eliminate germs. Acceptable pathogen levels in dairy products increased 20-fold from previously established safety thresholds. Maintaining pristine facilities, hygienic milking procedures, immediate refrigeration, and sterilized equipment required extensive effort that proved challenging with limited technology. By mid-century, pasteurization became mandatory nationwide, with regulations progressively tightening until raw milk sales virtually ceased. Preserved wild meat cakes. Centuries before modern protein bars appeared in markets, indigenous North American communities invented a survival superfood. Pemmican provided concentrated energy, portability, and preservation lasting months. By the 20s, this tradition extended beyond native populations. Pioneers, trappers, and settlers adopted pemmican as an essential survival resource in harsh frontier territories lacking refrigeration, where every calorie held immense value. Pemmican combines rendered animal fat with dried meat from wild game such as bison, elk, or deer, sometimes incorporating berries. The meat undergoes smoking or sun-drying, then gets pounded into powder and mixed with melted fat. This mixture forms cakes or solid blocks that can last months, even years, without spoiling. A small portion could fuel an entire day's activity, making pemmican the equivalent of today's energy bars. However, modern health regulations view it differently. Traditional pemmican remains illegal for commercial sale in most states because it contains uninspected wild game. The USDA restricts selling meat products not processed in certified facilities, regardless of the method's historical longevity. Tiny songbirds. Hidden beneath elegant linens and layers of controversy exists one of culinary history's most secretive delicacies: the ortolan bunting. This diminutive bird, scarcely larger than a thumb, once represented the pinnacle of French gastronomy and occasionally appeared at extravagant American gatherings during the early 20th century. Ortolan wasn't sustenance born from necessity but rather pure extravagance, a symbol of absolute luxury. Traditional ortolan preparation was extraordinarily cruel and contentious. Hunters captured birds nocturnally, force-fed them in darkness, then drowned them in Armagnac brandy. Afterward, birds were roasted completely intact, including bones and beak. Another peculiar custom involved diners covering their heads with napkins while eating, supposedly to concentrate the aroma or conceal the act, transforming consumption into a private, guilt-laden ceremony. This delicacy's popularity triggered severe consequences. Ortolan populations plummeted dramatically due to excessive hunting and habitat destruction, prompting France to issue a commercial prohibition in 1999. The ortolan bunting story serves as a sobering reminder of the environmental destruction luxury foods can cause and the critical importance of protecting endangered species from culinary exploitation. Preserved sea turtle. Sea turtle flesh, particularly green turtle soup, once represented ultimate luxury and a favorite among elites during the 20s. The meat was typically stewed into rich soup or stew with sherry, vegetables, and spices. This preparation appeared not only in exclusive restaurants but also at diplomatic functions, served at presidential banquets and state dinners, symbolizing wealth and prestige. Highly valued for its succulent, tender meat, sea turtle was considered luxurious throughout both America and Europe. By the 20s, commercial canning made this delicacy accessible to broader audiences through catalog orders, further increasing demand. However, excessive consumption exceeded supply. Overharvesting and habitat destruction pushed several sea turtle species toward extinction. International protection measures responded by prohibiting sea turtle harvesting or trade, representing crucial efforts to prevent rare animals from permanent disappearance and contributing to growing environmental and wildlife conservation awareness. Brain sandwiches, a familiar preparation once popular throughout the Midwest, particularly at Indiana county fairs, unfortunately joined this forbidden list. Brain sandwiches. The mere thought makes many recoil today. Instead of premium cuts, people utilized calf or pig brains, something contemporary diners wouldn't dare consume. But for previous generations, it exemplified survival wisdom. One grandfather's philosophy captured it perfectly. When we butchered livestock, we used everything but the animal's voice. The soft white brain tissue was soaked, sliced, battered, then fried in hot oil, creating a golden crispy exterior surrounding a rich, nearly creamy interior. In German-American communities, this wasn't a bizarre oddity but a genuine delicacy, embodying waste not want not culture. For them, brains weren't gruesome but rather a culinary treasure. However, bovine spongiform encephalopathy concerns, commonly known as mad cow disease, during the 90s completely transformed regulations. This disease causes catastrophic brain damage, leading to stringent federal regulations strictly limiting or prohibiting brain tissue in human food. Despite being nutritionally valuable and historically significant, brain sandwiches yielded to stricter regulations for public health safety, becoming culinary history. Which dish impressed you most? Would you try any once? The Green Fairy. Absinthe, a brilliant green liquor, earned the affectionate nickname the Green Fairy. It represented more than a beverage but rather an elaborate ritual. Traditional absinthe preparation involves slowly dripping ice-cold water over a sugar cube balanced on a slotted spoon, causing the absinthe to turn cloudy, creating a mesmerizing opalescent swirl. Thujone, a chemical compound from wormwood, a key absinthe ingredient, generated much controversy. Absinthe faced accusations of causing hallucinations, insanity, and moral corruption. A tragic incident contributed to global prohibition. A notorious Swiss case involved someone blaming the liquor for murdering their entire family. Although science later demonstrated that Thujone's hallucinogenic effects were exaggerated, negative narratives and prejudices proved strong enough to ban absinthe in numerous countries, including America. Only recently has absinthe been re-legalized in some locations, but with stricter Thujone content regulations, demonstrating a balance between cultural preservation and public health protection. Fried songbirds. For meals during the 20s, luxury wasn't defined solely by perfectly prepared filet mignon or lobster, but also by small songbirds like canaries, larks, and sparrows. These birds were plucked, seasoned, fried, or roasted, then served completely intact, including bones and beak. In some regions, they were quickly singed over flames to remove feathers, then shallow fried until crispy. Diners consumed entire birds in just a few bites. Within certain circles, this experience represented both culinary and cultural significance, a connection to old world traditions. However, as bird populations severely declined and wildlife conservation awareness grew, protective measures emerged. The Migratory Bird Treaty Act of 1918 prohibited hunting or selling most native songbirds. This legislation aimed to protect biodiversity and prevent numerous bird species extinction. Fried songbirds vanished from menus, becoming reminders of humanity's evolving attitudes toward nature and conservation's growing importance. Shark fin delicacy. In opulent banquet halls and wedding celebrations of the early 20th century, few dishes displayed wealth and status as prominently as shark fin soup. Imported from China and quickly appearing on luxury restaurant menus from San Francisco to New York, this soup didn't represent nutrition but rather symbolized success and power. Uniquely, shark fin itself possesses virtually no flavor. Its contribution comes from distinctive texture and culinary tradition extending back centuries in Chinese imperial kitchens. The chewy, gelatinous texture of shark fin in hot broth was considered a refined delicacy sought by connoisseurs. However, shark fin harvesting methods sparked global outrage. Finning, removing fins and discarding the shark back into the ocean, was deemed brutal and wasteful, causing severe declines in global shark populations, threatening marine ecosystem balance. Many states and nations issued bans on shark finning and shark fin trade, aiming to protect shark species and maintain ocean biodiversity. Beaver tail. In frontier communities and even among clergy during the early 20th century, beaver tail was celebrated as a fatty, chewy, calorie-dense, oil-rich delicacy. This preparation, distinct from the similarly named fried pastry, comprised a significant dietary component for wilderness inhabitants. A unique and fascinating detail. French-Canadian Catholics actually classified beaver tail as fish to permit consumption during Lent. This intriguing loophole reveals its culinary significance and creative rule interpretation to suit circumstances, demonstrating cultural and religious flexibility to utilize available food sources. However, excessive trapping caused sharp beaver population declines, pushing the species toward critical status. Beaver tail became a focus of early conservation efforts, with trapping regulations tightened to protect populations from extinction. Currently, beaver tail consumption is rare and strictly controlled, testifying to wildlife conservation measures' importance. Ocean giant meat. When meat became scarce and protein sources limited, Americans didn't always turn to farms. Sometimes they looked seaward. During the early 20th century, whale meat appeared in butcher shops and on menus, especially prominent during wartime rationing and economic hardship. Though more commonly associated with Nordic or Japanese cuisine, whale in America served as an emergency solution. Affordable, abundant, and fatty. It wasn't about delicacy but sheer survival necessity that transformed the ocean's giants into substitute meat for an entire generation. Whale meat was often compared to beef but possessed a distinctive marine aftertaste. During World War II, whale meat even appeared in school cafeterias as whale burgers, illustrating its role as an alternative protein source during difficult times. However, large-scale industrial whaling led to severe global whale population declines, driving many species toward extinction. The U.S. Marine Mammal Protection Act of 1972 prohibited hunting, selling, or consuming whale meat, with very limited exceptions for indigenous communities' subsistence and traditional cultural practices. Unregulated wild game. During the 20s, for many rural American families living off the land, wild game meat was a regular dinner table item. It wasn't exotic cuisine but ordinary sustenance and a survival matter during difficult times, especially throughout the Great Depression. Animals including squirrels, raccoons, possums, rabbits, and even bears could all become meals. The distinctive aspect was the absence of USDA inspection or commercial processing. It depended entirely on what a rifle or trap could provide. One family philosophy embodied this lifestyle. If you can hunt it, catch it, raise it, or trap it, we'll eat it. From squirrels, raccoons, bears, fish, shrimp, rattlesnakes, deer, turkeys, pigs, goats, and cows, all appeared on the table. They lived off woods, streams, and extensive gardens, processing their own meat, vegetables, and fruits in a self-sufficient lifestyle. Modern food safety standards and strict USDA regulations have made uninspected wild game meat no longer common or legal for commercial sale. These regulations ensure meat is processed under safe, hygienic conditions, preventing disease transmission from wild animals to humans. While it was indispensable in old rural life, uninspected wild game meat is rarely sold publicly today. Gelatinous fish preparation. Lutefisk is a gelatinous dish made from dried white fish, typically cod. The preparation process is unique and sometimes hazardous. Fish is rehydrated in water, then soaked in a lye solution until its texture resembles something between fish and gelatin. The unique and concerning aspect is that this process uses the same caustic chemical employed in soap production. After the lye soak, fish must be re-soaked in water, often for several days, to remove remaining toxicity. If done improperly, lutefisk can become extremely dangerous. Problems arose when home cooks sometimes used industrial-grade lye without understanding its potential dangers, creating food safety inconsistencies. Concerns about lye burns and chemical contamination led the FDA to restrict food-grade lye use. Although lutefisk remains traditional in some cultures, particularly Nordic ones, its preparation has been more tightly controlled to ensure consumer safety. Blood soup. Also known as dinuguan or black soup, pig's blood soup appeared on tables as economical survival food, maximizing animal utilization. Families tried using every animal part during butchering, wasting nothing. This soup is prepared by simmering fresh pig's blood with vinegar, garlic, onions, and spices. The soup thickens during cooking and has a rich, rustic flavor, representing tradition and resourcefulness through complete utilization. However, blood spoils quickly and improper handling creates serious health risks. Food safety regulations tightened, requiring blood collection, storage, and processing under strict conditions to ensure hygiene and prevent disease. Many home kitchens cannot meet these conditions, making this dish's sale or service illegal in some states. Although still important in traditional cuisine worldwide, in America, pig's blood soup must comply with stricter regulations to protect public health. Scottish delicacy. Haggis, a traditional Scottish preparation, is a culinary icon made from minced sheep's liver, heart, and lung mixed with oats, onions, and spices. This mixture gets stuffed into a sheep's stomach and boiled. Haggis isn't merely food but a source of Scottish pride, a national treasure for Scottish immigrants in America who celebrated this dish to preserve their culinary heritage. However, the primary issue leading to haggis prohibition in America involves the lung ingredient. According to USDA regulations issued in 1971, sheep lungs are prohibited for human consumption due to concerns about potential contamination during slaughtering. Although haggis is integral to Scottish cuisine and culture, and no clear evidence proves sheep lungs are directly harmful if properly prepared, USDA regulations strictly enforce the ban. This prohibition has sparked controversy and desires for change from food enthusiasts and haggis producers. Nevertheless, haggis remains culturally significant, and American enthusiasts must find ways to enjoy adjusted or legally imported versions. Poisonous energy tonics. During the early 20th century, the American market flooded with energy drinks promising miracles, including arsenic-infused tonics. Americans consumed these beverages, believing they cured fatigue, provided rosy complexions, and boosted vitality. While it sounds like murder mystery material, these tonics were widely sold and consumed without suspicion. At the time, arsenic was considered therapeutic in small doses and even prescribed by doctors to treat everything from anemia to syphilis. The problem wasn't immediate toxicity but long-term exposure. Chronic arsenic ingestion led to symptoms ranging from skin lesions and organ damage to cancer. By the 40s, as science advanced and arsenic's cumulative harm became better understood, public health authorities banned its use in consumer products. This contrasts starkly with today, when manufacturers sometimes knowingly incorporate harmful substances into products. The arsenic-infused energy drink story powerfully reminds us of the dangers of blindly trusting remedies lacking scientific verification. Nerve stimulant drinks. Another heavily advertised elixir promised to energize the weary and stimulate nerves, bringing renewed vitality. Astonishingly, strychnine is the same substance more commonly recognized as rat poison. However, in small doses it was believed to stimulate the nervous system. Strychnine was often marketed as nerve tonic or digestive bitter, diluted enough to avoid immediate poisoning. This exemplifies how thin the line between medicine and poison once was. As medicine advanced, strychnine's risks began outweighing perceived benefits. Even in minimal doses, repeated exposure could cause muscle spasms, anxiety, and in severe cases, respiratory failure. Ultimately, these dangers led to strychnine's removal from consumer products, a critical decision protecting public health. Have these preparations shocked you sufficiently? We have many more strange and unusual dishes from the 20s. Please like the video and subscribe to Hidden Histories so you don't miss exciting content. Root beer ingredient. Sassafras oil, with its distinctive spicy sweet flavor, was a key ingredient in beloved beverages during the 20s, especially old-fashioned root beer. Sassafras oil was believed to purify blood, cure colds, and promote general health, making it popular for both flavor and purported health benefits. Its unique taste distinguished it and contributed to widespread popularity. However, during the 60s, researchers discovered that safrole, the main compound in sassafras oil, caused cancer at high doses, linked to liver cancer in laboratory animals. This discovery shocked the public, leading the FDA to quickly ban safrole use in commercially produced foods and beverages. This prohibition completely transformed the soft drink industry and eliminated a distinctive historical flavor, all for consumer safety. Whale excretion. Long before artificial flavors filled bakeries, elite gourmands once indulged in ingredients that would make you shudder. Most notable was ambergris, dubbed whale vomit, but actually originating from sperm whale colons. It wasn't prized for its origin but for its deep musky aroma and subtle earthy flavor. Ambergris was extremely rare, often found floating in the ocean or washed ashore, making it incredibly expensive and exclusive. It was used sparingly in puddings, custards, and jellies, transforming dishes into something exquisite and luxurious, elevating cuisine to new levels. However, as whales became protected under international law, trading and using anything derived from them was prohibited due to ethical and environmental concerns. Ambergris was removed from legal food ingredients to protect endangered whale species. Although still used in the perfume industry, its culinary use has become historical. Rendered pork fat. In American kitchens during the 20s, lard was a versatile, essential ingredient used to deep fry everything from fried chicken to French fries. It was not only affordable and long-lasting but also easily obtained from home-raised pigs. Many families grew up cooking with lard rendered from farm-raised pigs. Lard was considered grandma's secret weapon and the reason why biscuits and fried foods had uniquely delicious flavor. It provided crispness and flavor that was difficult to replace. However, by mid-century, health science began discovering lard's high saturated fat content. Vegetable shortening's rise and heart disease concerns pushed it from mainstream kitchens. Interestingly, many people thought margarine was healthier than animal butter at the time. Many commercial lard products were hydrogenated, introducing trans fats, substances later strictly regulated or banned. However, perception has shifted again. Lard is now considered healthier than seed oils. As we learn more about cholesterol and seed oils' harmful effects, many believe natural fats like lard, beef tallow, and coconut oil are healthier and provide superior cooking flavor. Lard's story testifies to continuous change in nutritional knowledge and food perception. Looking back at this culinary journey, we can observe how food has constantly evolved over decades. From survival foods to experimental delicacies and sometimes even hidden dangers. Do you remember or find any dish on this list most impressive? Is there any preparation that makes you feel fortunate it was banned? Please share your thoughts and memories in the comments below. If this video brought back interesting memories, don't forget to like and subscribe to Hidden Histories to continue our nostalgic journeys back in time.